All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing today? I was told 3 different rooms before, so it's
Yeah,
awesome.
us
This
too.
is like pretty chill. I love this.
Yes.
This is great. It's the best option we could have found. And I'm gonna get to sit. I never get to sit. This is great. All right. So we are about to kind of kick off, an initiative that is going to really hopefully help students at Reservoir, especially the ones that you're going to be working with directly. Those of you that are going to be tutoring in math. But there's a lot of kind of supports that we're going to be adding to this, and so that's really what this morning is about. Is kind of learning a little bit about you, hearing about a little bit from Ms. Torres about kind of her vision in this, and then understanding what some of those supports will look like and how we're going to kind of be working together over the course of the rest of the year. Do you want to introduce anything to start us off?
Yes.
Awesome.
First, I want to say that there's one volunteer that is not here today.
Okay.
I know. We have talked for many years, especially with Michelle and Joxanne, that they have been here for a while, since I got here, about the lack of professional development for teacher assistants.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I'm very fortunate to have Miss Amarilis, Miss Earl, and Sandra, their parents, and they want to join our community. So, working with Throughline, we have worked in the past, and my experience with them, you know me, I'm very demanding.
Yes, you are.
And Sean knows me.
I was about to high five you. A little bit much, but maybe afterwards.
In a very caring way, though.
Yes.
And
But
one that's about kids.
Yes,
That's why you
we
do it.
want the best for the kids. I also want everybody to be well developed in their craft.
Mm-hmm.
So creating this partnership with Throughline is going to help us with that all of you are developed in your craft. Because this is how, and I have been very honest with all of you, I started as a teacher assistant. And I was kicked out of trainings, even though I never asked for payment,
Mm-hmm.
because I said, oh, you're a teacher assistant, you cannot be here. And I said, no, I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I want all of you guys to learn. And this is an opportunity to bring the new staff member, old staff member, parents to join the conversation and the training so we can support our kids. So this is the this is what we want to build. We want to build a strong group of professionals, because all of you are, to help our kids better and provide you with the tools that you need to do that. I cannot ask you to serve your kids to the best of your capacity if you're not well developed. So that's the partnership between Throughline and us at Reservoir. Background of Throughline, I've been working before. It used to be Highlander. I started working on a middle school.
2015, probably.
Yes, with them, and being in the district and working with different organizations. This has been the organization that most have impacted my craft and the craft of the teachers that I work with. So I trust in their professional development. So that's why they're here. Plus, they know me now. They can keep up with me. They can keep up with me. But I just want you to take advantage of this opportunity. Sandra, tú eres la mamá aquí, representando con Miss Earl y Miss Amarilis, representando a nuestros niños. Y esta es una oportunidad para desarrollar habilidades en ti que en el futuro tú lo puedas usar como carrera. So generally they're expensive. They are. They're very expensive, and they provide professional development all over the country. Yes.
And live across the street.
And he lives across the street, so we know where he lives. And his wife is like, I saw his wife once. I'm like, oh, you're Cynthia. Yeah. So it's, I know it's going to be a good partnership. Do not have any doubts in asking questions. You guys are going to be with the trainer from Throughline for an hour because you guys are the most experienced. Ms. Earl, Amarilis, Sandra, they're going to have an additional training because we're going to do kind of a pilot with math with kids that are 3, 4, 5. That's why you guys are not going to be part of that. You want to know what it's about, that we can arrange for you guys to know and understand what's going on. Okay? Okay, guys. Thank you, Sean.
No worries, thank you.
You know that it's wonderful working with you.
Always. I look
Oh,
forward to it.
yes, me too.
All right.
Okay, and I'll come in and check in with you.
Okay.
And you can use this all the way to 12. You can
Really?
stay in this space.
Okay,
For
all right.
today, because we're testing and the teacher
Oh, that's
here.
nice.
Okay, that's huge.
Okay.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Peter.
Oh, no, don't worry, there's nothing you need for today. But we're gonna be, so, Cynthia always does it better than I ever can. So that really was the kind of the gist of what we're trying to accomplish here. And so what we're gonna be going through this morning is just an opportunity for you guys to kind of reflect a little bit. This is kind of blocking my view of you, there we go. Reflect a little bit on your own journeys and kind of where you want to go. What are some of your goals that you see within this project so that we can kind of get a better understanding of that? And also, I believe personally that every single adult that comes into a building has different interactions with kids in ways that are completely unique to yourself. You see the situation differently than, maybe a classroom teacher, the gym teacher, Ms. Torres. And so we want to also understand your perspective on what you're seeing that is working, what you're seeing that you think you could have an opportunity to improve, where are the ways that your ideas can come into this space. We feel like aside from the small amounts of professional learning you get on the first day of the year, there's not enough opportunities for the staff that aren't actually like classroom teachers to be able to really bring a lot of that input. And so this is going to be also a space for a lot of that. All right, so let's jump in. Our goals are just kind of framing the context, understanding a little bit of your whys. Cynthia kind of already gave us some of her vision. We're gonna talk about what does this mean for kids and what could be our vision for this work. And we're gonna build our vision together based off your kind of personal feelings around what you wanna see this work to become. And then how do we maintain some confidence? Because there's gonna be points in time where you're gonna feel like, I can't do this. And it's the same feeling that our kids have, right? When they're in there and they're learning their math or they're being pushed to read, right? And so what do we do when we hit that wall where we get a little bit overwhelmed or we get a little bit scared because it starts to make us feel like I can't do this. Like, you get that imposter syndrome, right? Where you feel like I'm not meant for this, but you are. And we will make it work one way or another and support you at every stage, however you need it. So it really is about kind of just saying where you are and asking for what you need and then us all kind of working together to figure that out. So let's jump in really around kind of your own personal why for this work, right? Mm-hmm. We could be working, don't worry about it, take some we could be working in a lot of different places, but you chose to work in a school, right? Or volunteer in a school, right? So there's gotta be a reason why. What's the reason why you do this work? And what do you want to be true for the kids at Reservoir Avenue School? And then we'll get to the second question. So maybe we can just kind of if anyone has their answer ready to roll, we can go. Yeah.
Start this one, he's gonna turn.
Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Yeah, so.
Do you have a reason why this job and at this school?
Actually, I didn't know I wanted to do it until I talked to Ms. Torres. And I worked in a preschool, high school,
Yeah. So, and what did Ms. Torres say that really kind of got you excited?
about she wanted housing from the community, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, because nobody's gonna protect your kids more than you, so.
Yes. Yes, so you're here to make sure that your kids in your community are getting the education they need. That's your why. I love it. I love it. And what do you want to be true for kids? Like when you see a kid walking into Reservoir School for the day, what do you want to be true for that child's day? Just want them to feel safe. That's powerful. Yeah, really powerful. Thank you.
Okay, I started this job a long time ago. I've been here in the system 23 years now. So I first got started, my son was probably 5, and I was working, I'm gonna date myself, at a clothing line called Fashion Bug, and my mom was a
Goodness.
So my mom was a TA, and she used to work at Women
Mm-hmm.
before they closed, and she was like, just give it a try, because you don't, because I helped raise all my cousins and my little ones, and she's like, just give it a try, I know you'll be good at it, you're gonna love it. And then I applied, my first year I subbed, and then, yeah, I fell in love with it. I love to see their faces when you come in, and you say good morning to them, and they give you a hug, and just that friendly,
Yeah.
knowing that, oh, somebody really cares about me. Like,
Yeah.
to give them that positive, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
We love you here.
Yeah,
And you're right, you're safe here.
Yeah.
We'll never let anything bad happen to you.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
23 years of that. That's pretty powerful. It's a lot of
Yeah, and
kids
it's
you
funny
get back
because,
to.
he'll always stick in my head, probably he's in college now.
Yeah.
And I went out to Longhorn Steakhouse, and I hear, I'm with my family,
Yeah.
and I hear, Miss Michelle, and I already know, that's a student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Michelle, and she's like, that young gentleman's calling you. And I look up, and it was, I'll never forget his name, Anthony. He's like, Miss Michelle, you remember me? And I could still see that little face. And I'm like, Anthony? He's like, you'd be so proud of me. I'm in college now. And he's like,
That's
like,
wow.
I'll never forget you. You never took my crap. You kept me in line all through 5th grade. And he goes, I'll never forget you. And that just like,
Yeah.
till this day, I still get teary-eyed when
Yeah.
I tell that story.
And what
Like, I
that's,
reached
yeah.
one. As long as you reach one,
Yeah.
because we can't save everybody,
Yeah.
but if you get one,
Yeah. And you probably have reached way more than one, because what that story tells me too, when he says you never took my crap, it means you had high expectations.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
When you hold a high bar for students,
yes,
and they know that you also care about them and feel
Right.
safe with you,
absolutely.
that's when they strive to hit that bar.
Right, because
and
they
reach
know
that
there's
bar.
a time and place where we can play
Yep.
with each other,
Yep.
but when we're trying to do schoolwork,
Yep. It's
no,
time.
Mhm.
it's time
It's
to work.
time. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I started working with kids when I was 16.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to work in the education field.
That's one.
Worked in plenty of daycares, plenty, until I came across Providence School Department.
Mhm.
I started, I did my class, then it was something that I say like it's wow, because that same week that I was taking my certification
Mhm.
test was the week they were hiring.
Oh, wow.
Yep, so I got hired, I worked at a behavior school,
Yeah.
that's where they threw me at
Yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah.
And I've been here for 8 years,
Wow,
and I love it, I work with kindergartens, ESL,
fantastic.
and I love what I do, ever since I was young, I knew what I wanted to do.
That's amazing. And all 8 years here at Reservoir?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
Different
I
schools.
worked in 3 different
Three different
schools.
schools, okay.
Behavior, Bailey,
yeah,
Webster,
yep,
Wards, I didn't stay there because that was the year of COVID.
yep,
And then here for
Here.
4 years.
okay, excellent. And when you see that child walking into the school in the morning, what do you want to be true for them?
Oh my goodness, when I see them, I'm like, good, because I'm also
Yeah.
a bus monitor.
Okay, yeah.
So the first day, good morning,
Yeah.
happy Monday, happy Tuesday, happy Wednesday. And they're like, good morning, Miss Joyce. So sometimes these kids need that uplifting early in the morning.
Yeah.
They need that smile in your
Yeah.
face.
Yes,
They need that positive vibe.
Yeah,
because the negativity could be at home.
Yeah.
And you see them when you get out of the
Yeah.
car, and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
something happened at home.
Yeah.
But I agree, cause I'm a monitor too.
Yep.
And just like her, I greet every single one by
Yep.
name,
Yep.
good morning,
Yes.
good morning, good morning. And I also taught them, when somebody says good morning to
Yeah.
you, you
Yeah.
may not have a good morning,
Yeah.
but it's respect to say good
Good
morning
morning
back.
back.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and what you're describing, you know, is even bigger than the good morning, because what you're essentially doing is you're welcoming them into the Reservoir community
Yes.
at that moment, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
correct.
moment of entry. They haven't
Yes.
even entered the school yet, but
Yes.
you are there to greet and
Yes.
say, hey, you're here now.
Yep,
We
yeah,
got
we
you.
got you.
We
We
got
got
you.
you, yes.
I love that. Will you help her translate and we can, yeah, excellent.
Son esas preguntas, ¿no?
Sí, eso como es, cómo es para hacer el trabajo y qué tú esperas de los niños cuando están en la escuela.
Y este es mi primer voluntariado.
So this is our first time volunteering.
Yep.
En realidad no tengo experiencia con enseñar a los niños ni nada, pero me gusta el aprendizaje, el ayudarlos en crecimiento. Tengo muchos sobrinos.
Okay.
Y tengo experiencia en eso, en ayudarlos a ellos en sus estudios, en cómo aprenderse las letras, el vocabulario.
So she has had, she has no experience, but she does have like cousins and stuff that she does take care of and all of that. And ¿qué fue lo que tú esperas de los niños cuando llegan a la escuela?
Y espero que aprendan
So she wants the kids to learn well when they come to the school.
Yeah.
por el hecho de mi niña de estar acá.
Oh, her daughter is in one of the classes right here.
What grade?
Pues,
First grade. Excellent. So you got a long time for her here, and you want to make sure that her experience is great.
No tiene mucho tiempo aquí, ahora ella, so, no, ella, sí, so ella va a tener mucho tiempo aquí, hasta el tiempo atrás, que va a estar aprendiendo en el tiempo.
y yo con ella.
And you're
And her with her, yeah.
and by being here, you can make sure that is even better. That's great. I love that. Thank you.
So I come into the school, by Miss Torres, cause she just found me outside and she's like, you wanna be a TA? And I'm like, okay. I filled in for Miss J, and she has the most wonderful class, like, I love the
Yeah.
school and everything, but I got to experience her class, and like she said, her kids are marvelous.
Yeah.
And Miss Michelle too, I love their classes every time I come in, and, I'm sorry, I got nervous.
It's all right.
And I feel for her, for Buzz, and for her classes, and I learned so much in her, like, she
Yeah.
had to deal with a lot in being a TA.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just, the kids are loving, they're here every day, and they're like, look at this, they're very expressive
Yeah.
for kindergarten, but every child that comes in, I feel like they have a loving environment, a protected environment where they can express themselves if they have any problems. If they're sad, they always have somebody to communicate with.
Yes.
They never have to be crying alone. They have somebody to express them. And that's what they highly need sometimes too. They're incredibly smart. Sometimes they're like, I don't know this, I don't want to be here. I'm like, come on, let's show you, sit down. I'll show you how fun this is. I try my best try. As a mom too,
Yeah.
because I came as a parent and my son is also in the school.
What grade?
He's in 3rd grade.
Okay. Excellent.
So I have a 3rd grader at home,
Yeah.
trying to tell me everything that he's like, oh, I learned this in my class. And he literally went up to the teacher. I know the teachers are very awesome because my son is like adamant on getting a present for his teacher. He's like, my teacher like this, and he picked everything out for her. And I was like, oh. And he gave it, he was so excited. And I know the best, everything is the best here.
That's amazing.
Yes, I was like, every person, I'm like, get
Yeah.
me back into this school.
Yeah, really.
So that resonates a lot for me too. I was a former kindergarten teacher, and you know what you guys are describing, it's like the feedback loop is so quick, right? Like you do something like a song or a hand motion, whatever, and they're just like instantly like, you go out into the world with other adults and you're doing something that you think is great, that the likelihood you're gonna get that feedback in that same way, not the same. So there's like that rush of working with kids, but also, like you said, they have a deep need to be heard and to feel seen.
Yes.
And when you can do that for them, especially when they're not feeling great, that's really a powerful thing, and it makes you feel like you have real purpose in this space, and I think that's key.
Yeah, because children, I don't care what age they are, they notice everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're like sponges.
Yeah.
They absorb it very
I
fast.
put my hair a different way.
Oh, yeah.
Why's your hair on the other side?
Yeah.
Why's your hair look like that today? I'm like, oh my God, you're the only ones in it, because the adults, they didn't even go, but they pick up on
Yeah, one
So
of,
true.
Pick up on
And
it.
one of the best things with our reservoir
Yeah.
is very diverse.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Very diverse. That's,
Yep.
that's a plus.
That's a
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big plus.
Yes.
awesome. All right, I'm gonna keep us moving here. So I want to talk a little bit about this term that we use at Throughline, which is called community educator, and it basically is a really big umbrella term that is meant to really incorporate all of the individuals that we know do the work within schools, but maybe don't get the credit that an in-service classroom teacher might get, right? Because a lot of times when we're talking about data or test scores, we're talking about the teacher of record for that particular classroom, but we know that there's so many other individuals that are supporting and working with that kid to make that thing happen. And what we believe at Throughline is that oftentimes the folks that are doing the work but not necessarily getting the credit actually have the ability to connect the most deeply with students. And there's a lot of research that's been done over the course of the last 5 to 10 years that really shows that when you can build that deep connection, when that student knows that they feel a sense of belonging, that's that feeling of when you greet them on the bus, right? That's that feeling of when they're sad and you kind of sit down with them and make them feel seen. That feeling of like high expectations, when they have that sense of belonging, when they feel safe, then their brains can relax enough for them to not be in that fight or flight moment, right? And sometimes we know, you've seen this, I'm sure, here at the school, when the work is getting harder and the teacher's getting, feeling a lot of pressure because they have to put these test scores in place, they start to behave in ways that raise the kind of temperature in the room, right? And then what happens, and this is just part of us as humans, right? We have like 3 different parts to our brains. And the first part is kind of the brain that is like that animal brain, right? It's that fight or flight. I gotta run, or I gotta hide, right? And there's a couple other ways we might act, like shy, we might hide, or we might just like do whatever you say, right? But we're not really learning, right? And so that brain has to be able to kind of relax enough to move into the next brain, which is kind of like just kind of taking in the information. But really, we got to get to the front where we're actually doing the learning and where that information sits and can be retained so that when they do actually have the test in front of them, they can pull it back because they're not operating from that fight or flight standpoint. And I'm sure you've seen that, right? Where you've seen a child where the temperature just starts to rise and then now they can't even function, and now
They shut down.
They shut down.
Yeah.
Well, that's some act out, right?
Yeah.
We talk about kids as behavior kids, but
Yeah.
really what we're saying is they've activated that part of the brain
Right.
that is ready to fight, because that's in all of us, right?
Yes.
We all have that in
Yeah.
us. It's just a matter of whether or not we have built up skill sets to kind of be able to bring ourselves closer to our frontal brain. So that's really where we have seen community educators have a really powerful role. Because a lot of times when that happens, you guys are the ones in a classroom, especially as TAs in a classroom with another teacher, you can kind of notice that kid, right?
Absolutely.
And you built that relationship already. And so when you say, hey, we can make this fun, they trust that, right? And that is actually relaxes that part of the brain and allows for them to get to a place where they can do some learning. And so our belief is that if we can empower the individuals that are not necessarily the ones charged with all of the content and curriculum, to have skills for what do I do when I see that child who needs that moment, or what do I do, when I see the child on the bus and there's an opportunity to intervene. We want to build those skill sets so that there's opportunities for you guys to be doing additional things, because we know coming out of COVID, our kids need even more
Oh,
than what they needed before, right?
absolutely.
And so, you hear all the time about these gaps, right? There's the academic gap, there's the socio-emotional gap, like the ways in which we have to kind of support kids to get back to where they need to be. And so what we're hoping is if we can take the individuals who have the closest relationships and give you skills to help kind of close those gaps, whether they be emotional gaps through like mentorship and helping kids, and we do a lot of that with the older kids, and I'm gonna talk about a program that we've run around that, or literally math tutoring. Because if you have a smaller group of kids and you can make that environment fun, and they feel like they can come in there and it's gonna be so much less pressure than it is when they're in that room with their teacher, we believe, and we're gonna test this out. Remember that Ms. Torres said we're gonna pilot this idea. We're gonna test this out to see, hey, do they learn a little bit faster? Do they kind of catch up to some of their peers, right? And so that's the training that you guys will be getting this afternoon, is in what are some of the tutoring tools that I could use to work in a small group. So, because we know there's all sorts of things you do during the day, but based off the situation that our kids are in and the ways we can support, we think we need to up the ante of like how we're supporting you guys to do more really targeted work with kids. So, yeah, and I've got some ideas too to work with you guys in the classroom maybe later, but we'll circle back to that because there's a kindergarten resource that I found for reading that's meant for TAs to do like 15 minutes a day with a particular kid. And so that's something we can circle back on, but I'll get back to you on that one, yeah. So I'm gonna tell you about, one of the programs that has gotten us to this place. And this is a continuum here that is oftentimes, I wouldn't say it's ignored, but it's not talked about a lot. So the disconnect between the school on the left and the home environment on the right is pretty significant in terms of the number of individuals that the child in the middle has to deal with on both ends, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about that child has to come into the school and work with the teacher, and then there's all the school staff, right, that they have to work with. When they go home, you talked about who knows what was happening in the home that day, but the child is sad or whatever and coming out of that. But then also there's like baseball coaches or the people at the community rec center, or the people that they might see just in the neighborhood. And all of these folks are in their world, but unfortunately, rarely do all these folks on the outsides collaborate to do what's best for the child. Often what happens is the child is left to navigate that himself or herself and figure it out. So you treat me this way here, and then you treat me this way here in school. I gotta figure this out, all right? Because home might be like this, school might be like this. I gotta figure out how do I go back and forth between the two. What this project is meant to do is to say, well, if we have more people from the community who are able to work within our schools, we start to crunch this down and come together, and the child has to do less of that navigating because we're working to bring everyone into an environment where it's all about supporting that child. Mm-hmm. And that's really how we see community educators. And you're gonna see in a moment, there is no definition of what a community educator is. It's just somebody from the community who really wants to work toward a purpose-driven with that child, meaning I want to help you around academic skills, or I want to help you around your social-emotional skills so you can be more calm and you can feel more powerful in yourself. But it could be anybody, right? It could be just about anybody, as long as they have that mindset. And we do all the the paperwork and background checks and all those things, but then we train you, and we believe we really have based off the resources that are available to work with a person side by side. Anyone can really support this child, and the closer they are to the community, the more likely the child's going to respond well to them.
I have a good example of that. So my dad, he's 82.
Yeah.
And he's been in martial arts all his life. He's got like 7 different black belts.
Yeah.
But he always taught like regular adults. And then the past 5 years, he has been teaching special needs children.
Yep.
And he said to me, I've never known that I could bring so much joy to children and
Yeah.
give them so much confidence.
Yeah.
He wish he'd done it 20 years ago.
Exactly. And so we're doing this project with 3 Rhode Island schools right now. One of them is in Johnston, and the Johnston team that we were talking to, when we were asking them who they wanted to get trained as community educators, they were first started talking about the paraprofessionals, but then realized that they were actually understaffed in their paraprofessionals, and so there wasn't actually enough capacity. And so we started brainstorming and thinking, and the senior center is just down the road. And so what we've been doing is recruiting seniors from the senior center, training them in the same ways that we're gonna be training you, to be doing this work with small groups of students around tutoring. And so, yeah, it is. There's so much potential in our communities that just doesn't get tapped into with respect to closing these gaps that we know have been caused by the pandemic. And now's the time to really start thinking about how do we invest in that training. And so that's really where we
To see
believe.
somebody older
Yep.
working with somebody young, because you might not have that old, you might not have a grandmother or grandfather, but to
Yep.
see that, yeah, that's great.
It's awesome. So our first, are you want any more time? You good? Okay, I love that you're doing that, thank you. So the first project that we did was actually the first year that you were allowed to go back into schools after the pandemic, 2021, and in March. And we had students in Central Falls. Central Falls had the most days of outside of school of any city in Rhode Island. So students were basically out of school almost for like 2 full years versus like everyone else kind of had started coming back in that second year. And so we knew that there was gonna be a lot of anxiety, especially on the part of the high school students, to come back. And we had worked with the school to kind of identify who were the students that they know they needed to really reach and who might need a little bit of extra push to come in. And then we got some, this was part of the grants, we got some funding to hire 7 folks from the community who had no experience necessarily working in schools. A couple had, but we put out the job description. It was basically 18 hours a week, and we called it a pod leader. You know, during the pandemic, they had talked about these learning pods in California mostly, where it was like really wealthy families that would pay a teacher to take their kids and do activities. Anyway, they were isolated, right? So it was safe from a COVID standpoint. Not every family can afford to do that, right? But the concept is really powerful because you have that one person who's kind of responsible for a core group of kids, can really build that relationship and then make that child and support that child to get back into their academic coursework at the actual high school. And so the Learning Pod program really was really powerful. You can see these are young men and women who, right from the community in Central Falls, many of them had the similar identities to the students they were working with, spoke similar languages to the students they were working with, shared lived experience, right? They knew the rec center that they went to, they knew the summer programs they attended. Hey, how's it going? And you know, we got some really incredible results. So there was a lot, and because this is high school, right, they were able to do texting to get, wake the kid up in the morning and make sure they were coming in. But this is a parent talking about and thank you for everything you've done. This is to the pod leader. For both my boys, Jay has transformed so much over these last few months. John has started slowly coming out of his shell. I'm just truly grateful and appreciative that you and this program has done for them. So it's just that opportunity, and families understand it too. When you need that extra kind of targeted and personalized attention, that's really what some of this work can actually support as well. And so we actually saw some really huge increases in terms of like families rating the pods as extremely helpful for supporting their child, 100% of the families. Students reported 85% increase in engagement. So that, we were worried that they weren't gonna come back. Not only were they coming back, but then when they got into classrooms, they were actually participating and engaging. And so we knew there was something here, right? Because the training that we were giving was empowering folks who didn't see themselves as educators to become educators. And it was something that was exactly what the students needed. And you'll see 67% of the pod leaders reported wanting to stay in the education field after going through this experience. These were additional folks that were never probably gonna be in schools, now not just coming in for a short duration of 18 hours a week, but now also choosing this as a pathway for themselves. And we've had several folks from that program who have gone off to Teach for America, have done other different programs, gone back to RIC, gone to URI, getting themselves trained. Another program that we did off of this one is I actually work with the Elmwood Little League, which is right around the corner, and you guys are gonna be hearing a lot from me about Elmwood Little League coming up soon. But we have coaches at Elmwood Little League, right? They work in all sorts of jobs. This is Edward. He actually just got his citizenship status, but he was a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays in their farm system, and ended up coming to Rhode Island because he fell in love, and he kind of hurt his elbow, so he couldn't pitch anymore. Wanted to work with baseball, and then, but on top of that, what we saw was that he was really good at connecting with the kids. Only he spoke Spanish, but all of the players also spoke Spanish, so he was able to connect immediately. And so we got 4 of the Elmwood baseball coaches. We trained them in the same training that we're going to be giving you guys, and they also jumped right in. Another one of the coaches, his name is Jojo. He went from, baseball coach kind of on the side and doing yard and lawn work. Now he's a TA over at UCAP. So finding ways to get folks back from the community into the education space on long arc trajectories where they can become classroom teachers or principals, that's really the goal of what we want to see happen here. And there's 1,000 different ways that you can impact children, right? So it's not just about becoming a classroom teacher, but if it is what you want, we can help you get on that road as well. So there's all sorts of opportunities here as well. So as I'm talking about this, I'm curious, I'd just like to go around again and kind of hear from you. What are you noticing or hearing, and how could you see it connect back to the students and the work that happens specific to Reservoir? So, and I know a couple of you are relatively new, so you don't have a lot of experience at Reservoir, but you have experience as parents at Reservoir. So if you hear about this, what are some things that it starts to get you thinking about in terms of ideas or how you could have an impact here at this school? It's a tough question, but
Yeah, I was like, wait,
drawing
what's the-
connections between those programs that I was talking about and the community educator model in general, and then what Reservoir kind of might needs or could be helped with.
That's a tough one
I
too.
think,
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of the children respond to a male figure.
Oh,
And we
yes.
lack a lot of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if there's one at home or
Yeah.
not, but they respond very well.
Yeah.
And there's a male, cause actually, my teacher was out and I had a male.
Yeah.
sub, and I could not believe, even the ones that are usually just quiet, they were like
Yeah.
answering questions, just to have that male role figure in the room.
Yeah. I definitely benefited from that as a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive. That's a great example. Any other things and I guess I'm talking about places and spaces where it maybe isn't enough teacher time, energy, or capacity, but what are some of the ways, and not just yourselves, thinking about even beyond this, other additions, the male presence in the school is a great one. Other things that might be missing.
I don't know, for me, for almost wishful thinking, and
Yeah.
I wish they had more programs after school,
Mhm.
because I don't want it to be out of school, my son loves soccer, but I don't want it to be somebody they don't know.
Yeah.
Cause it's harder for me from going to work and then dropping from soccer and back, if it was something in the school, cause I know a lot of kids are oh, we wanna do after school. I know they're doing drama club, and my son is the moment they give me that paper, sign it.
Yeah.
So I know after school, sometimes kids don't have time after school to get picked up by parents, or parents don't have time in general. It's a good benefit to
Yeah.
get some after school inside, but I
No,
know
it's a great
sometimes it's not
example.
possible.
No, it's a great example. I know that I've seen Girls on the Run down at
Yeah.
the park,
Oh, I've seen
down here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bunch of adults that I know are not necessarily teachers in the building, or maybe some are too,
Yeah.
but you have all these other now folks from the community working and supporting, so that's a great example. If we can connect the resources in the community, like Elmwood Little League.
I have one for soccer.
Okay,
And
excellent.
I've already been,
Yeah.
I will have to put that in
All right.
Cynthia's hands, but Project Goal, they're already
Yeah, that's
at,
right. I know.
Julie
Project Goal.
Slater,
Yeah.
Tanya
Lima.
Costa,
Yeah.
Lima.
Yep.
They're already there,
Yeah.
and my husband has been on the board, we're huge supporters of
Yeah.
Project Goal, and they do exactly what
Yep.
you just mentioned.
Yeah.
The first hour is homework,
Yep.
they do homework support, and then you get all your homework done, and then the second hour is soccer.
Yeah.
And they would have to bus our kids though to the field where Lima kids do this program, but it is an amazing program.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Yeah.
so that might be a nice
No, it's a good
community
one.
partnership for you. Why don't you
Great
call,
one.
I know Darius, the gentleman that started it, so
Yeah.
we can connect, honestly, I can connect you guys.
Love it. I'll follow up on that for sure. Any other ideas, thoughts that kind of popped for you guys around ways of connecting these?
I don't know, sometimes everything is mostly covered in school.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they need anybody to talk to, they can be pulled aside to a certain person.
Yeah, and sometimes just to see a different face in the building,
Yeah.
just to be, oh, let me go talk to this one.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids
Talk
don't
to
want to
strangers.
Yeah.
You know, just somebody new
Yeah.
just to just sit down and talk to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was, Cynthia already kind of handled this, so I'm gonna keep moving. We're gonna talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about the gaps that we were, noted, that the district wants to talk about, like math scores, ELA scores. But I'm more curious, as you guys are kind of moving through the building, what are you noticing about your students and some of the needs that they have currently? And I'm gonna take some notes on this one, actually. What are you noticing? I've heard a couple already, so I'll even help you out to get started. I heard you say, yeah, go
A
ahead.
lot of, more than usual, they're very emotional, I guess I wanna say.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can,
You're saying like social emotional support
Yes,
needs?
definitely social.
Yeah.
All day, I don't care how many years I've been, I always learn something going to a social emotional
yeah,
seminar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
could try that,
Mhm.
because there's just so much. And you see it, you see it in the 5-year-olds, and you're like, wow, that's so amazing.
anything else? That's a really good one.
Um,
Well, you also mentioned, desire to work with males.
yes,
You mentioned desire to do things outside of the academic environment.
Something like that. It's like something like the sports are more tutoring. Like sometimes kids do need more help.
yes,
Like after school activities.
yes.
Yeah.
And parents have expressed that in PTO meetings too.
Because like sometimes the school is they need a certain spot where there's not a lot of kids going around.
Yeah,
It's, for me, it's like
And this is like a second home to their children,
Yes.
and
Oh,
they
yes.
feel comfortable keeping their kiddos here versus having them be transported to another building. I know as a mom, that's how I feel too.
Yeah.
And just someone to give them positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't do that.
that was something that my school, we'll come back to that another time. Any others? These are great. Any that you've noticed from just being a parent and being around that you'd like to see, or that you're just like, oh, you mentioned
The
this,
very emotional kids.
double take on that one. Yeah. Well, when you say emotional, what are some of the things you notice? Like, what are they crying more? Are they?
A few of mine.
Yeah.
The little ones cry. I see a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and they just don't know how to get their feelings out verbally.
Great. So one of the things that we're doing in this slide here is, we're identifying some of the challenges that we want to address. The opportunities really are this opportunity that Ms. Torres has given us to be able to kind of have time where you guys aren't with kids to learn and explore what you want to do and how we can help. Then we plan it, right? And so that will be part of the training that we'll be in today, but also really thinking about like, okay, so when we're tutoring, which kids is it gonna be? What part of the day? What room is it? Like the logistics need to happen, right? And then we do it. And when we do it, well, what we do is we have our coaches who are there to kind of support you along the way. So as you're doing your first tutoring sessions, they're with you. They're helping to kind of observe, give you some feedback. If you have questions, they're there to answer those questions. So the implementation itself, and then if we notice something that's like not working, then we fix it, and we try it again. And you guys raise another idea, and we're like, oh, that's a great idea, let's try that. And we keep working through that implementation process. But the goal at the end, and these are some of the things that we'll be tracking in terms of like looking at the data, is their experience. How are they feeling about that experience, right? You saw on that other slide about the Central Falls project, the sense of belonging. That's that feeling you have when somebody greets you at the bus, that feeling you have when someone cares and you feel safe. Does that go up by having the tutoring, right? By having that one-on-one opportunity to work with a community educator. Do they come to school more often? Maybe they're like waking up their parent now and saying like, I gotta get to school, I got tutoring today, I really wanna see my teacher, or my tutor. We might see some movement on grades and skills growth, that's the goal, but ultimately, sometimes those things are the latter thing that happens, right? The first thing that happens is the kid starts to feel safe, they start to feel like they can relax that part of their brain, and that might take a little bit of time, but then once that happens, then this part opens up, then they start to learn, and then the latter thing that happens is you start to see that academic growth and grades go. But we still have a good chunk of the year left, so we hopefully are gonna be able to get there with the tutoring to be able to really see some of that academic growth move as well.
Mom just need to know that they can do it, that's confidence.
We're gonna talk about that right now, that's a perfect segue. So what is our role in this work, okay? And what I wanna talk to you a little bit today, so this is the team that you'll mostly be working with. The woman in the middle, her name is Malika Ali. She's the one that actually built all the curriculum that you're gonna be going through with Throughline. The woman on the left, Mikael, she lives in Providence. She will likely be the person that will be coaching you on kind of like a day, like the weekly basis. She'll have a day that she's here in the building. And then I will be here to support as needed. And if Mikael is busy, then I'll probably step in, being that I live so close. So we'll kind of be a team that's kind of all working together. Sometimes, Malika actually lives in New York, so sometimes you might see her more on like a Zoom screen, but Mikael and I will be on the ground and in person. And there might be other people from the team that come now and again, but this is gonna be your main group. And what we do, and I wanna give this to you just to kind of let you have a little bit of an opportunity to peruse the curriculum. And not all of this is gonna be done in year one. This is really, that's the framework. It's called the Culture Responsive and Sustaining Pedagogy Framework. A lot of big words, right? But essentially what it's meant to do is it's these, it's backed by research that we have been, reading, digesting. Malika really, when she was kind of at her program at Harvard, kind of really helped to put this together. But the idea here is that it is the foundational skills for you as the adults, the community educators. And then when you have these skills, then when you're working with the students, we give you some strategies to help them feel more relaxed, to help with the emotions that they're feeling, to help them express the words of what this feeling is. I'm gonna actually bring your attention down to number 6 in the orange over here on the back of the page. So the way the framework is broken up, it moves actually from awareness to community building, cognitive development, and then you get to this place of critical consciousness, which is really where we want all of our students to be, because what critical consciousness means is that I can think deeply about myself and about my world, I can make decisions, and I can impact my community positively, meaning that I can get a great job, I can volunteer, I can be a parent, anything I want to do, I know how to think critically, take in information, process it, and then make a very informed decision. That's the ultimate goal of education, right? Whether it's math, numeracy, literacy, all these science, social studies, we want our kids to be able to think deeply about the information that comes in front of them so that they can be very informed and really make their own decisions throughout the course of their life. But in order to get there, really awareness is about understanding that if this child is here doing work, are they thinking? Because so much of the day, right, I'm sure you observe this, kids are in the classroom, but they're not necessarily thinking, right?
Right.
Their brain might be here, their brain might be there, and the teacher's doing a lot of talking, and the teacher's doing a lot of work and a lot of thinking. Her brain, or his brain, is just firing constantly. But the child's brain is kind of on pause. And that's really awareness of, is thinking happening? We don't just go through the motions. We want to make sure that what we're doing with the child is actually lighting up those neurons in the brain, because that's how the learning happens. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to keep going, right? Because we're not just trying to get done with this book. We're not just trying to get done with this worksheet. We want to know that you're thinking. And so that's a really important thing that we're going to train you on, is how to be aware of when a child is thinking, or if they're just doing a task. All right, because that's important if we want to see learning and we want to see growth. The second is that what kind of a container does a child need to learn? And we talked about that. They can't feel threatened, right? They gotta feel safe. They can't feel like there's so much temperature in the room that I'm gonna go into fight or flight. And one of the big things that was really important, and again, this is us as humans, we all deal with this. I'm sure you guys are gonna feel this today. When I hit that moment that is hard, what do I do? Do I quit and kind of say, do I cheat and look over at my friends? Do I take the easy route of saying, hey, can I go to the bathroom and get out? Like, what do I do? And so one of the things that, you know, is the reason I directed you to number 6 is because if you read number 6, it's called Deepens Students' Capacity for Productive Struggle. So we use this visual to help kind of signify this. You know, over here on the left-hand side is that moment when a child is presented with a problem, or an adult is presented with a problem, right? In this picture, it's children. At that moment, they have 2 options, right? Well, not really 2 options, there's a lot of options, but at that moment, what we say is, if they don't know the answer immediately, then they fall into that pit. And that's a good thing. To be in the pit, you have to go into the pit to learn. If you don't have to go into the pit, it means you already knew it. And so what are you doing here? We're just wasting our time. But if you get into that pit and you actually find yourself confused, what happens next? And what we want to teach kids is how to climb out of that pit and continue to persevere and work toward getting to that answer. Now that doesn't just mean being like, come on man, do it. It doesn't, you don't just yell at a child to help them get out of the pit, right? You don't give them the answer and then say, hey, look, you got it. No, because that didn't actually help them get out of the pit. At that point, you might as well just build a bridge across and never let them learn. What we work toward and what we're gonna train you to do is what's the rope? And there's a lot of different strategies you can use with kids that can be the rope to help them get out of that pit. And once they start to internalize those strategies for themselves, it's called building cognitive routines. They do it enough times over and over and over, then any challenge that comes in front of them, they're gonna use those routines to help themselves get through it independently. And that's the goal, right, is independent learning. And that's the third, that's when the cognitive development really starts to kick in. So that's the goal, right? We want to train you guys to be able to notice when kids are not thinking. And let's change that. Put them into situations where they feel supported as a community so that they can go through those learning challenges. And then get to a place where we're building those cognitive routines that they can use over and over and over again. And eventually they become critically conscious, independent learners who are ready for the world around them. All right? So our goal is to empower our students, but at the same time, empowering ourselves. Because the more you guys get these skill sets and this ability to operate within this framework, the more power you're gonna have across the school, at home, in all the interactions you have with kids. All right, so do you guys have a hard stop at 10:15? Because we're at 10:15, and I do have a survey that I need you to complete. So maybe we'll put a pause on this for now. And then what I'm gonna do is give you guys, so who has a computer? We have 3 computers.
I do.
You do have one?
You could go on from a guest perspective, you can go on PTSD guest, and I'll give you the login for that.
You
That's
also
not a
can do this
problem.
on your phone, if that's
Okay.
easier. Yeah, so if you'd rather do it on your phone, we can do that as well. Let me think, how can I get if you give me your emails, I can send the link to you. And then we can go that way. What I'll do is I'll pass around my computer.
Oh, is this your computer? Did Cynthia give it to you? Oh, good. Oh, you don't have an email yet. Okay. So, Sean,
Yep, we can do it
Stephanie would have to do it on her personal email.
Sure, personal email or phone, either way. Is she able to
Yeah.
get on the internet here? No.
I can't log her into this Chromebook under her Providence Schools account because I don't think it's set up yet.
Okay. Do you have your phone on you? Does your phone have your email? Okay, we can do it that way then.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries,
This
just
is
give me
fine.
your email and I'll just send it to you and then we don't have to do it. Is it JOC or JOE?
JOC.
JOC. Dot SUAZO at Providence Schools. It's schools with an S, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me quickly do that because
When
it's
you
just
private schools,
a
I'm gonna send it to
normal-
my PPSD.
Either one.
This one, yeah. I send it to my PPSD, that's PPSD.
This is PPSD?
The Outlook is PPSD.
Yeah, Outlook is PPSD.
I can do that. It's the same, it's just.
Yeah, it's the same, it's just, it's
Oh,
at
yes.
PPSD.
Cause I can never get into Providence schools, that's usually just for when we're doing.
I wish we were a Google, like, just got rid of
Regular
Outlook
Yes,
and just stayed with Google. I prefer
would be so-
Gmail.
so much easier.
And like all of our stuff that we work in is on Gmail, is a Google Suite, so it just
Absolutely.
makes complete sense to get rid of Outlook. I just don't like Outlook as a product, I just don't, but. you know,
Now, the
sometimes
survey
it's
is in Spanish also, so I can, if you give me your email, I can send it to you. Do you have your email on your phone? Yes, okay, perfect. All right.
So Stephanie, were you given any sort of login information? Yeah. It's recognizing,
An email back.
yeah, it's recognizing, but what I don't have is, your password, unfortunately. And I don't have like a generic one that,
Yeah,
I'm
So to log
sorry.
in?
I'm so sorry.
yeah, she was waiting for, for that.
I know, it feels like we've been waiting for a while for this stuff.
And Miss A,
All right, and so that's, I just need yours, Stephanie.
Sorry about that.
Betty Jackson never got back to me, but Cynthia's are supposed to be printing some stuff out that I can give to you about that PD, because you definitely need to take those.
Yeah.
And Stephanie does too.
What?
Did
the-
that
the-
PD apply for her as well
Okay.
during February break?
Wait, you she's hired, it's for the union, so I don't know.
Oh.
So I don't think she's hired yet.
Have you done your classes yet? Oh, okay, then forget it. No,
So it's just,
sorry, Miss
Definitely.
Michelle, I
That's
was
okay.
wrong.
no, that's okay.
I was wrong.
But I had her
So when are
make
you
four.
gonna do those?
That's
Right.
not an email, but.
And the email, I believe, should also have a Spanish language version, or the survey when you get it. See if that's in your inbox yet. It might take a couple seconds to get across the webs.
Yeah.
And it might be in your spam. Look for S. Rubin
Too.
if it went into your spam. You found it? All right. Oh, and then I did not send it. Did I get yours? No. But you.
Michelle, wait, PBSC, I thought you took mine.
Yeah, I did. Okay, let me just double check. I got everything. Yeah, 5.
Yep, here it is,
There
yep.
it is. All right, perfect. All right, so it is a little bit of a lengthy, but not too long. It's probably maybe take like 5-10 minutes tops. I'm just trying to get a few of your thoughts as we start this off.
And I can keep this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.